So the committer team, basically we have currently we've got a team of 17 people who are essentially the gatekeepers to the code base. So they decide what does and doesn't go into OpenSSL. So one of the primary roles of the committers are to review the contributions that come in. All of these guys have expertise working with the OpenSSL code base, sometimes many years of experience. Certainly collectively there's a huge amount of experience there. So the way this works is external contributions come in as a pull request to GitHub. And in order for that code to make its way into the code base, you basically need to get 2 reviews from two of the committers. And once you have those 2 reviews and 2 approvals, then at that point the code can be merged. We're always on the lookout for new committers. There aren't any sort of hard and fast rules as to what it takes, but basically what we're looking for is some people who have shown commitment to the project over time, usually through sort of multiple submissions of pull requests and so on, and demonstrated some technical capability, and a willingness to pass on that knowledge through review. And ultimately, new committers are admitted through approval from the foundation or corporation boards. So that's the route. So the way we're going to do this, I've got a few pre-prepared questions which I'm going to ask the panel, and then I promise to make sure that there's some time for audience questions as well at the end. So let's start. So if you could all introduce yourselves, and I'd really like to hear the story of how you each became a committer. David, let's start with you.
My name is David from Oheimb. I work for the Siemens company in Munich. And about 10 years back, as I'm going to share also in my talk at 11 a.m. today, I contributed a big chunk of code, namely the Certificate Management Protocol, CMP, to OpenSSL. And this was a lengthy process. And during this process, Matt noticed, okay, this guy apparently has something good to contribute here, and asked me to join in. This was 5 years back.
Yes. My name is Frederik, and I work at a small Danish company. And I think my road to being a committer was because we did a project where we wanted to add post-quantum cryptography algorithms into our solution. And so I noticed that when I added it to our TLS connections, it worked. But we also use DTLS for securing our audio and video calls. And for that, I noticed something weird. It didn't work when I tried to use PQC with DTLS. So I started a issue on GitHub, and Matt kindly explained to me that yes, and that it's expected that it will not work, and what probably needs to be added to the code base is the DTLS 1.3 feature, and then I started working on that and got familiar with the code base, and yeah, and then I was part of the team after some contributions there. Yeah.
My name is Nicola Tuveri. I've been sporadically contributing to OpenSSL probably since 2010, 2011. At the beginning, that was me as a student submitting some very small fixes, mostly under the supervision of my professor that knew what was going on. I was just the monkey trying until things worked. And then maybe more frequently since 2016, when I actually started doing a PhD, and then I was more focused in, well, not only detecting vulnerabilities in the EC or Big Num stack, but actually trying to fix them and add in some modularity so that it will be possible to apply the same countermeasures, not curve by curve, but across the whole ecosystem. And after a little bit, someone from the OpenSSL project noticed that I was being too loud, and they decided, oh, this guy, let's rein him in, and they asked me to join as a committer. So that's how it happened.
I think that's a really nice story that you sort of started with the sort of small-scale contributions and it ramped up. I think that's a fantastic route and a sort of roadmap for other people to be following.
My name is Dmitry Belyavskiy. In 2004, the company I was working for decided that OpenSSL is a great framework, but it lacks flexibility good enough for providing the algorithms that are not RSA or DSA or elliptic curves. So we started on working on redesign OpenSSL. Then we came in contact with upstream, namely Dr. Steven Hansen. I think the all participants of the project remember this great person. Yeah, and well, since my first meeting with OpenSSL as a real-world project, I got eager to contribute there. Yeah, then it took 10 years to really meet some people who were involved in person. It happened already after Heartbleed, when at ATF I met Rich Siles, who introduced me via email to Matt, and Matt was shepherding a huge set of my patches. Then I was contributing more or less regularly, either Russian Ghost specific stuff or general stuff such as memory leaks, design, and so on and so forth. And at some moment I decided that I am brave enough to apply for the committers. And luckily the management of OpenSSL agreed to grant me this permission. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dmitry. Okay, so so my next question, really, I mean, the committer role, it's quite a responsibility, and you know, it can take quite a lot of time to invest in it. So, what is it that makes you give up your time to do the committer role? Start with David.
Part of my time was paid by Siemens, but beyond that, I also contribute individually in various aspects of OpenSSL that I just came across when using OpenSSL, both personally and at company scale. So there were, I noticed quite some things that not only bugs, but also usability issues, documentation issues that I thought, oh, it would be good to fix them, also to help others to avoid the problem when they come across it themselves. So my motivation is basically, trying to shape a better world in the IT security perspective.
I think that's fantastic that there's this sort of motivation to make it better for other people as well, and I think that's a sort of common theme, I think, among a lot of the people who contribute to OpenSSL, is giving back to that community.
And also, of course, I owe a lot of things to the open source community in general. So it's a good way also to give back the benefits.
Yeah, and I want to add, I have it's a kind of the same angle as you. I do my contributions as part of my work, but I also do some contributions just because I stumble upon things that I think, this could be better. But also, I think, in particular, OpenSSL to me has been kind of it's maybe a bit too big calling it a childhood dream to be part of the team, but I remember 8 years back when I started out being a software developer, I thought to myself, okay, how hard can it be to contribute to this this project? So I found an open issue and I tried to resolve it, and I quickly learned that I didn't know know too much to be able to actually help out. So I think, to me at least, it feels nice to be able to give back, and also I think it's amazing that you can deliver software that is of I think high quality for free, and that's that's how the internet should work, not be like closed circuits with the technology. Yeah.
Okay. So first, I think before answering the question, I have to disclose the fact that actually, effective last week, I stepped down from my committer role. So, but I can answer on what motivated me through the time I was a committer. Maybe afterward there might be time to say why did I step down. It was a lot, and it is a lot of different motivation. I think that the most primal one is that by starting to take care of one small part, very specific part of OpenSSL, I kind of felt very attached to it. And so it felt very natural, even when I wasn't a committer, to contribute reviews or suggestions, or even just raising questions about does this apply to this use case? Is this going to harm this particular use? As an academic, I'm very interested to the toolkit nature of OpenSSL. Is this going to be impacted by this design change or this API? So I think in a way it was a very selfish reason at the beginning. Just I care about this. I want to keep using it. I'm having fun using it, and I want to make sure that it keeps being fun and it is accessible and useful for everyone. And then I was surprised when I was invited to become a committer, and I think since then more motivations added, and I saw it as a way to contribute back to the project from that I used as a user. It's everywhere, and it was unfathomable how important it was in my everyday life being a user of OpenSSL. So that was a nice way to give back to OpenSSL in particular. And also I saw it as a mission trying to voice the concerns and the interests of developers that work with OpenSSL but are not part of the OpenSSL organization, or that do not work on OpenSSL things because they need it for their work, so that they need to pursue some goals set by their day job. And so I think all of these things motivated me participating as a committer, and later on as a OTC member, and now as a TAC and back representative.
Oh, I have quite mixed motivation, yeah. Of course, there are a lot of stuff that improvement found you found an issue by random. It's relatively easy to fix. You just contributed to resolve this problem. There, of course, are business needs. For example, recently contributed support of opaque key object, so good example. But I would like to say that I am inspired by our internal Red Hat team, by our people who are working on OpenSSL, making it stricter from the standard compliance perspective, and so on and so forth. So they provide me great material for implementing something that would make OpenSSL more compliant to standards, for example.
It's interesting. Everyone has their own sort of particular reasons why they contribute their time, but there's definitely some common themes about, you know, making things better and wanting to give back to the community and all those sorts of things. So, you know, we get people all the time raising pull requests and wanting to contribute to OpenSSL. So what advice would you guys give to new contributors to OpenSSL?
Well, just ask the silly questions, actually. There's no bad pull request. There's no bad questions to be asked. Everything that goes on to the internet will eventually bring some new perspectives to the stuff in OpenSSL. So I think just be curious and try to make an impact. And I think the community is good at explaining why some ideas are better than other, and what the good solution to a problem might be. Yeah.
As already mentioned by others yesterday, I think it's good to start with small things, like Matt did with the little patch line characters. So it's something that's easily to see, and it helps you as a contributor to get acquainted to the process of how to submit the thing, how to get reviews, how to react on them. So all of this doesn't matter how big the thing is, it's better start with a small one. And another reason to start with small things, I made the mistake before with a different library, libest, to have a big chunk of things that I would have liked to improve on them and add to them, and it was simply too much for them to take it. So another reason to stay small and manageable, also for those who have to digest the inputs that you want to give to them.
That's why the CMP PRs were so small.
I tried hard to split them in pieces that made sense. It was really a tough game.
Okay, I can repeat the advice. Don't hesitate to contribute, but not only don't hesitate to contribute, but also please process feedback. When you get feedback, please process it. And the second part, well, if you think that if you have a good track record, if you are still passionate with working on OpenSSL, don't hesitate to declare your ambitions explicitly.
In my case, I think I might answer this question with what I usually say to my students that I try to motivate to contribute to the project. And I think the first thing that I have to remind them is not to be intimidated by the relevance, the impact, and the history of the project. Sometimes that's the first barrier to actually contribute. They think they are not good enough, that they might prove themselves silly because they did not think of this obvious thing or they misunderstood something. And in my experience, as a reviewer of PRs, actually some of those contributions that came from contributors that were not very sure of themselves, or maybe even those that in the end were making mistakes, actually were in the end very valuable for the project and for the contributor, in the sense that they reveal some mistake or deficiency in the documentation, or something that was documented to be designed one way, but then the implementation actually did something completely different. And I think there's a lot of value for the project in receiving fresh views, even if it might take more effort from the committers and full-time developers to follow up with the inexperienced and new contributors. And also for the new contributors, there's a lot to be learned, and there is nothing to fear. Even if it is the public internet and the fact that you were wrong is going to be forever in the Internet Archive, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is that you learned something and that you contributed and added value to the project.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to pick up on what you were saying and also what Frederik was saying about no silly questions. I feel even today, you know, I've been working full-time on the code base for over 10 years, but there's still so much I don't know. You know, and there's areas of the code base which I'm just not familiar with, and there are other people on the team who are absolutely expert in one particular area, and you know, they wow me with their knowledge. And I have to sort of force myself sometimes to say, yeah, I don't actually understand this thing. Could you just explain it to me? And I think, oh, people are going to think I'm an idiot. I should know this. But you can't know everything. And coming into OpenSSL, it can be very intimidating. It is very complex. So I think this is really good advice. That try not to be intimidated. Ask the silly questions. It's absolutely fine. There aren't really any silly questions. They're all sensible.
Yes.
And we usually don't bite.
In other words, don't be afraid of the big jungle. There's always patches of them where you can safely walk.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I did promise I would give the audience an opportunity to ask some questions. So are there any things that the audience would like to ask the panel?
So there's a lot of PRs coming in. How do you prioritize what PRs you will look at?
Well, it's a painful problem, from my perspective, because I think that OpenSSL as organization should establish some process if the committers don't pick the PRs. But personally, I prefer to review simple things fast and provide simple and obvious feedback fast. It's nonsense when a PR changing 2 or 3 lines of clear enough code requires 2 weeks to be approved.
For me, it's a mix of different things to evaluate. So the first thing is, and part of the reason why I stepped down as a committer, is that I'm finding more and more difficult to find actually the time to contribute good quality reviews. And so at some point when I realized I cannot physically take the time to review big PRs, then one of the priorities was looking at small PRs coming from external contributors rather than the internal resources of the project, because I think one of the most relevant things for me is to keep motivating people to join and contribute more. So in those things, and usually also new contributors tend to submit small things first that I have some hope of actually understanding. So I think that's one. And the other thing is a selfish prioritization criteria, which is what I find cool and interesting. So of course, if it is, I am definitely not an expert in the libSSL, for example. So if it is something that is affecting libSSL or even the X509, I know that I don't have the expertise, and it will be a waste of time to try and figure out that and try to provide feedback on that. So I focus mostly on EC and Big Num in deep crypto and maybe provider API stuff, because those are the things that for work on a day-to-day basis I'm more familiar with, so it's going to be easier for me to give valuable feedback in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, I also think that the prioritization that I do is mainly look at the incoming contribution and see if I even understand the intent of the contribution. And I might have a tendency to think I'm the stupid one if I don't understand the intent. But maybe it would be better if I actually picked it up and asked what the intent was, and maybe I could help even more. And then for me, at least, time is also a factor. So I don't have that much time in my spare time. So when I'm not working on OpenSSL as part of my job, it's very limited what I have time to which problems I have time to kind of understand the technical aspects of. But what I think works really well is when some of the team members tags me, at least, saying, Frederik, I think this might be something you could give some review to. that works well.
For me, it's similar, like with Frederik. I don't have that much time to engage in reviews, and so it's kind of random what I pick up when something just came in on the mailing list that struck me and said, "Oh, that looks interesting. Let's have a look at this." There's one reason. Another one reason being, someone asked me, "Oh, could you please have a look because this looks like it could be in your area."
So I think a common theme here is, at least for these sort of external committers who aren't paid to work on OpenSSL, your time is clearly a factor. For me, I think I try to look at how impactful the PRs are, how important is this thing? Is this a really significant bug, or is this just a sort of minor thing? And also the size of the pull requests does make a difference, because the smaller things are much easier to fit in. I've got 10 minutes, I can go and have a look at this pull request. But this thing is huge. That's going to require me to set aside several hours, and yeah, exactly. So that's harder. Okay, have we got any more questions?
So I have a question for the committers. Do you think it would be good idea to split the approver or reviewer role and the committer role? Basically, the access to write to the repository. Do you think it would be a good idea to have this as a separate role? Because we don't need probably that many people with write access to the repository. That's not that big deal, but we need a lot of reviewers, and good reviewers.
Yeah, I don't like the responsibility of pushing to the repo. So I would be glad just having a role where I could do reviews, and yeah. So.
I also think that the name committers is sort of misleading, that it should be renamed to reviewers. But I want to mention that we should avoid the approved PRs fall into cracks, which happens from time to time. And the more committers we have, committers in sense of having the role of committer, the better we are in this part.
We can solve that by different ways, I think, like having some obligation for committers, which are the real committers, to do the role properly.
In my case, I think I haven't been a committer pushing to the repository or merging commits in a long time. So effectively, I have been acting more as a reviewer than a committer for a long time. I think things changed over time. At the beginning, I was more involved in merging. I think since maybe the relaunch, or maybe since 3.0, after that, the pace of more resources came into the project, the pace of development of new features also increased, and that made it quite difficult to be a committer pushing to the repository, because there were more and more often conflicts to solve, because I was way slower in my pushing process than the full-time resources of the project were. So effectively, I think since 3.0, I have been a reviewer, and I would welcome a split of the responsibilities. That being said, I stepped down, so it doesn't really concern me.
I also agree that not really necessary that every committer also has the access to do the merges.
Cool. Okay, thank you, guys. I'm looking at my timer down here and seeing it tick away, so I think we are basically out of time.
Was there a question by Anton? I'm curious. I saw his hand raised.
You've got 2 seconds according to the timer. So
in the previous panel, we had a James from Curl who told us it is a good idea to declare bankruptcy on issues in the perhaps PRs. I just wonder, is there a negative effect in this if we declare it tomorrow? What is committer's view?
I am actually against the idea of declaring bankruptcy and just saying leave it to the external contributors to raise it up again if they still think it's important. I think that will discourage a lot of external contributors that already put the effort, and that in many cases, okay, there's a big number of issues that have been reported where we asked as reviewers for more feedback, and then the original reporter disappeared. So maybe that is a different problem. But in many cases, actually, I think because the next release wasn't a major release or some other technical reason, we had, as reviewers, the necessity to say we need to come back to this thing that seems like a good idea or a concrete problem. We need to come back to it later, and then the later never arrives. So I don't think it's a good thing towards especially the external contributors to do a blanket, let's close all of them and hope that the important ones will come back. I would rather try, as we did in the previous instances of this, let's declare bankruptcy, have like maybe automation can help here to try and ping all the reporters and say, is this still relevant? Do you have checking the difference between those where we were awaiting for feedback and the ones where we had to retake the ball on the thing, and help using automation to figure out which ones we should follow up and which ones deserve to be closed.
I think we're way over time, so I think we're going to have to stop it there. And this is something.
I agree with Nicola, and I think that the practice of mass closing the bugs that we have done at least twice was already controversial enough, so we should not neither repeat nor make even a bigger mistake.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your contributions. It's been a really interesting discussion, and that's it. Thank you.